I'm so glad I met Beth though. Like, even if I had to leave and not get to see her often or ever, hardly, I'm so glad we met.
Oh, guys.
No, stop it.
Stop it. Oh, she's crying. This will be like the second episode she's crying on. Oh my God, Beth is crying. The Germany Experience podcast is back. It's the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Sean, and check out the website, thegermanexperience.de, and email me at info@thegermanexperience.de. I was away on vacation, as you no doubt know, but now we're back and we've got a whole new bunch of episodes coming up and new guests. And speaking of new guests, this week I actually have old guests. And by that, I don't mean old age-wise. I'm getting a finger on the camera already. I don't mean old age-wise. I mean that they've both previously been on the show. They're both from the United States of America, and one is Beth. Hi, Beth.
Hi, Sean.
And Beth was on the episode, actually you were on 2 episodes of the German Experience podcast. The first one was about the different phases of culture shock, and the second one was about going back home during the pandemic. So I will link to those in the show notes. So Beth is definitely no stranger to the podcast. And the other one is Amy, who appeared on an episode about making friends in Germany. How are you doing, Amy?
Hi, Sean.
And Amy is no longer in Germany. There's the spoiler that I'm just going to drop right now. She's back in the United States of America. You both became friends while Amy was still in Germany. And what we're going to be talking about is discussing the changes that Germany can make to your personality while you're living in while you're living in Germany. And it's usually something that you notice when you go back home. You sometimes, that contrast makes you realize, oh my God, how much my personality has been changed by Germans and the country. And also, we're going to discuss the temporary nature of foreigner friendships, let's call them that. But before we get to that, I've been gone for so long. I think I've been like on a month and a half break from the podcast that I need to do some housekeeping, as podcast hosts love to say, so that they sound more like podcast hosts if they say, I've got some housekeeping to do. And because you are my guests, you have to do the housekeeping with me, guys. So I'm sorry about that. But what I wanted to do before we get into our discussion is just go through 2 reviews that I got in the past few months when I was on a break. And the one, and I'll start with the good one. The one was a 5-star review. And someone named Cynthia wrote a 5-star review, as I said. She wrote, "In love with this podcast." I'm like, oh, thanks, Cynthia.
There's a heart emoji.
Yes, I know. Hey, I'm Cynthia, and I have to say I'm in love with your podcast. I went to Germany a few years back and really loved it there, but from a tourist point of view. But starting this year, I started thinking about moving there with my wife. Your podcast is so on point and just nice to listen to. I'm from the Dominican Republic. So my country is very different from Germany. So I do appreciate your info a lot because it's rich on information, but also a lot of fun. Thanks. So thank you, Cynthia, for that very cool review. And then Beth and Amy, I have a 2-star review to read out.
Wow.
This person is not pleased. And funny enough, I get most of my bad reviews from Germans. So that's going to tell you something. But I don't want to laugh too much at that fact, because this 2-star review is titled "Laughing About German Habits." So we're not pleased about laughing about German habits. I have heard 3 episodes now, and I don't see a loving eye on the Germans. That is so sad. And for real, why should Germans watch films in English? English natives in their home country would never watch French films in French. So I'm just going to start with the first part of that, okay? I always get so disappointed when Germans send me reviews like this, because I've been here for 14 years. You know what I'm saying? It's not like if I was really that unhappy, I wouldn't have been here for 14 years. And if you listen to maybe more than 3 episodes, I don't know which, but yeah, maybe you get a better idea for the fact that I don't hate Germany or Germans, right? And also there are quirks to every country. Definitely, like funny things about my culture. There's funny things about the United States of America culture, and there's funny things about German culture. But if we laugh at it, doesn't mean we hate the culture. So
I think it's funny that Germans are listening to your podcast.
Oh, I have a lot of Germans listening to the podcast. And I must say, I do get good messages from a lot of them. They say they love hearing about the outsider's view of Germany. But I also annoy a lot of Germans somehow. Okay. So I think, and I do think my episodes do have a very loving eye on Germany. I often bring out the good things of German culture. Don't you think? I mean, you guys are listeners of
Sure.
the show. Yeah.
I think the idea is to be able to look at your own culture. That's the whole point of it, is to get an outsider. We stated quite clearly. It's a
Right.
perspective that is from a non-German perspective mostly. But I guess if somebody were to say, oh, Americans are all this, that, and the other, anything absolute like that, like, of course, you're going to be defensive, but no one is ever just fully critical, or you might say pros and cons to anywhere you live.
And there are annoying things that we talk about, and we do laugh about some habits because some of them are funny. Like some of them are weird to us. I mean, it's not to say that they're weird in general, but to us, they're weird. So just for the record, Germans, I love you. I do love you, Germany. And I love the Germans. So maybe I should just preface that in every podcast episode that I do. Like the Germany experience, I'm your host, Sean Behrens, and I love Germany. Just so that it's very clear. But anyway, the second part of that, I don't know which episode this person listened to, but I have never said Germans should watch movies in English. In fact, it's the opposite. I was just saying I cannot watch any movies that are dubbed. So even if it is a French movie that I'm watching, I always have to watch it in the native language. I can't watch it in German. I never said you have to watch the movies in English, Germans. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for the review, I guess. But
I do talk about, right? I mean, I don't know. Listen to more than 3 episodes, maybe, before you.
Yeah,
maybe
listen to like 50 or something.
I was gonna say a pretty big catalog at this point. So
yeah, 90 episodes. I'm sure you're gonna find some loving and affectionate thoughts there. Anyway, let's move on from that review. I do love getting any reviews that I get. So go to thegermanexperience.de/rate and rate me. Even if you got bad reviews, I don't mind. I do take it all to heart. Not this one, but I do take them to heart. By the way, for you guys, so I know, as I said earlier, you both have at some point been listeners of the podcast. Have either of you listened to every single episode I've produced? And you can be honest.
I don't think I think I've missed some. This is Beth. I've probably missed a few of the first season. Sure. But generally, as soon as it pops up in my feed, I'm listening to it. Yeah.
I binged a bunch when I first started listening to you. And I think I've probably missed like 3 or 4, maybe.
Wow. So that always amazes me. Even when people say that they binge it or that they listen to a lot, it always amazes me. Simon Josie has listened to every single episode, and I promised him I would give him a shout out on the podcast because that. So he wrote on Facebook, it was on my Facebook group, he wrote, starting in May, I began listening to the German Experience. I've now listened to all published episodes. I like how he thinks there are some unreleased episodes. I've listened to all published episodes. Will I be getting a badge or maybe the German Experience hoodie or something to mark this special occasion? Well, first of all, Simon, I would love to give you a hoodie or something, but I do not have merchandise. But hopefully that's coming soon. But I did say I would give him a shout out, and I'm giving a shout out now. Simon, that's amazing. So here are some new episodes for you to listen to. And then before we get to you guys, Beth and Amy, I need your help on a listener question that I got. I got a question on Instagram where I can't remember who the person was actually on Instagram. Maybe I should have written it down on my notes. So the question is this. So I'm gonna read you the question, then I'm gonna come to both of you and find out if you've had a similar experience to this. I work in an international company and I often get excluded from the conversations, especially by a coworker who, regardless that the conversation is in English, keeps switching to German, knowing full well I won't be able to participate. I already mentioned and asked her in the past not to do that. Nothing changed. How do I deal with that? Beth, have you experienced that in the workplace?
Well, let's just address that situation just a second. That is just a real... I don't want to say anything derogatory. That's just
come on. I need more 2-star reviews from Germans.
That's shitty. I don't care what language that is. As a human being, that is just being a bad human. Like that's shame on them. You are purposely excluding someone. I am all about inclusion, and I think how I can relate to that is it's not a workplace thing, but just the feeling that I think I may have mentioned this before. I don't know, but you walk past people in a conversation I expect eye contact or even a little bit of a hint that you see me as a person walking by. And I finally have come to terms with it that it's considered an interruption. So maybe that's not quite in the same, um, it's along that same line of feeling like left out or not included. But I've just gotten to a point where I've accepted it, that just wouldn't happen in my home country. You walk by, someone says hi. So just these little, I don't know, it's sort of like human connection. It's a choice. You have a choice. Choice to say hello. You have a choice to switch languages and make that person feel included. That's a choice, and they're making what I think is the wrong choice.
Right. And Amy, is this something you've also experienced in Germany? That sort of people who know that you're speaking English, but they refuse to switch over to English to include you?
I haven't really been through something like malicious like that, where they're purposely doing it on a daily basis. I mean, I know what it feels like to feel excluded from the conversation, but it was never a situation where I know that they all speak English and they're purposely speaking in German.
Yeah.
I guess if this person has already talked to that lady, I would probably, the only thing I can think of to do is talk to her again and just say, why, I've asked you about this. Do you have a problem with me specifically that you're doing this? Or I don't know what else to do. I mean, that's really rude.
I actually like that advice as well. I think the way that you deal with Germans is that kind of directness and confront them. It is a bit difficult if you're someone like me that doesn't necessarily like confrontation that much. But yes, that would be the way to, and you could do it in a non-aggressive way, but just speak to the person and say...
She already did confront her.
Oh, that's right. And she did, didn't she? So yeah, I think she's warranted for a second chat.
I don't know. Say it one more time. Give them another opportunity. Like maybe they forgot. Can't imagine how. But then it happens again. You go to a HR or go to your manager and say, look. Yeah. Especially
that it's a professional situation. And I'm surprised by this because in almost all of the companies I've worked in a professional situation, they've always been quick to switch to English, especially if they realize, even without me pointing it out, that they've moved over to German. They go, oh, they see me that I'm there, and then they switch back to English. This was in the early days before I could speak German. So that was primarily my experience, that people are very quick. Germans are very quick to switch to English to accommodate foreigners. So on the Facebook, sorry, Amy?
Sorry, I was just going to say, I wonder, is this in a business meeting situation, or is it just around the water cooler where this person switches to German?
And I think that's a good question. So some people on Facebook answered, Nico suggested maybe you could just keep asking questions, trying to understand. I would imagine eventually she gets the hint and that it becomes cumbersome to keep answering all the questions and she switches to English. That's, I guess, also a good approach. Just to like, wie bitte?
That sounds exhausting. I think you just direct approach.
He's American, and I like that. That's not the direct approach. That is a very American approach, sort of a passive aggressive approach to the problem.
You want to know how I've changed my personality?
More direct. We're going to get to that, Beth. We're going to get to that. So that's what we called a teaser, folks. Noor, who was also previously a guest on the podcast, and one of the early guests actually, he said, if it's an off-work conversation, time for you to learn German. Having chit-chat here and there in off-work hangout times is always better to be done in language that you're in ease with. I took these conversations as German lessons for free, and it helped me a lot. But work discussions and situations in the team should definitely be in English if you are hired as an English-speaking employee. This is just rude, but if this meeting includes a decision maker, I will let the meeting proceed and ask after the meeting what it was about. Same goes for company-wide gatherings. I will try and understand as much as I can and then bug them afterwards. But in case it's a small team, I would definitely speak in my next review with my manager about this issue. So I think, off-work situation, casual situations, I guess they can do what they want. But a professional situation is very difficult if they're not doing it. So yeah, I also had some other responses on my Facebook group, but pretty much in line with what we're just saying here. Some people suggested that she learns German. So I get it. That is the long-term goal, but it also doesn't happen overnight. It's got to be sort of understanding while that learning process is happening. And I want your questions, people. I would love to have your questions that I can run by my future guests with. So send me your questions either on Instagram or get in touch with me at info@thegermanyexperience.de. So that is the housekeeping, and thank you for your patience going through all of that stuff. So let's get to Beth and Amy now. So you guys became friends while Amy was in Germany, right? So maybe take me through a bit about how your friendship developed. Because actually, before you start, I will say it's been fun watching you guys and getting the occasional weird voicemail message from you guys, because it turns out that you two are, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, goofballs, basically. As it turns out. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. And I realized when I was thinking about your friendship is that, and watching it develop, is that there's a word for like when guys have this kind of friendship, like a bromance, but there's no equivalent for when women have this kind of friendship, because I guess like the stereotype is that's normally how women have friendships or something like that. So I thought of a word to coin it. No, Amy, say no. What is no?
We're soul sisters.
Ah, soul sisters. I didn't think about that, right? Soul sisters. So you actually have matching tattoos, right?
No.
Kind of.
Kind of. They're related.
Yes.
They're related.
So we'll get to the tattoos. So how did this friendship develop?
I DM'd Beth because I listened to her podcast, which came out before mine.
Right.
And I was always trying to find like new friends, and I heard her and I thought, oh, she sounds cool. And I looked up where she's from. It's like, oh, it's only an hour-ish away. And so I think I reached out to you first and I said, hey, if you ever want to meet up, let me know. And then Beth suggested this Chipotle in Frankfurt because, we both want Chipotle. We like that.
Well, I think beyond that, like I have never, full transparency, I've never started a friendship through social media. Like I never even thought to use the platform from that, the old gram. That I take my photos, or else I have the friends that I have on Facebook. But then it was listening to your episode, Amy. So Sean, it all comes back to you. Yes. Really, it's all your fault. Then I wrote back to Amy thinking about the friendships, and she was talking about her really close friends moving away, and I was like, no, like that's terrible. I remember personally hearing that, really taking it to heart, no, she lost her friends. This story you were telling was just heartbreaking. And I thought, oh, you mentioned how you knew other couples, but there were American married to German, or whatever, never two Americans being married and living overseas. So here I am, oh, I know someone who is two Americans living over here. And so I thought, almost like a matchmaking, I'm going to set up this Chipotle outing, and we all get together and we're downtown Frankfurt. It's beautiful skyline, we've just eaten our Chipotle, and I thought, oh my God, we are twins. They're almost there was an instant connection. I'm what am I doing trying to I was almost really at first thinking I'm going to be this I don't know, matchmaker of friendships between an American couple and another American couple, not realizing oh my gosh, she is a ball of awesomeness, this one with all her energy.
And connect with the other people, but Beth and I were just immediately soulmates.
Yeah, we have the same matching handbag, or just these that sounds so corny, but you're it was an instant oh my God. And then we talk about beliefs and politics and the gamut. You don't understand what happened with this one. This is probably leading into another topic, but the whole being eingedeutscht and moving over here, and I feel I've really let a lot of who I really am kind of fall to the wayside. And it was somehow being in Amy's presence, I was this is a permission to be goofy again, or to be
yourself.
Not in a very conscious way, but more holy crap, you are a ray of sunshine. This is
well, all the references, we get each other's jokes, and it's when you grow up in similar situations, then listening to similar music, watching the same movies, whatever, pop culture stuff, we get each other.
Yeah.
The corny jokes, and I get a laugh, and you're oh my God.
You're laughing at my joke?
I don't have to explain what it means.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the kind of friendship that I think is very difficult to develop with the Germans, because like you said, that match up of cultural experiences, the similar childhoods, it's not something that you can easily have with the German. It's possible where you have similarities, but that sort of that instant click of just understanding, I know where you're from, and I get it, and I understand it because I've either experienced it myself or I've seen it. It's a difficult thing to replicate with Germans.
Yeah.
So tell me about the tattoos then. What about the tattoos, Amy? How did this work out?
So I was thinking, I think I really want to get a tattoo. And I started looking around on Pinterest and stuff, and I found one that I really liked. And so I sent a picture of it to Beth, and she said, I've been wanting a tattoo for 20 years, but I never knew what to get. I love it. And so mine is it's a Gemini. It's like the Gemini constellation, but with flowers. And so I sent her, what is it, Sagittarius? And so I sent her the Sagittarius version of it, and she loved it.
Capricorn, baby.
We both went together and got our first tattoos together. It was pretty cute.
That is amazing. So
she got a second one on the same day. And then I went back a week later and ended up getting like 2 more. But those very first tattoos each were like matching on the same day.
Oh, that's amazing. So that is pretty much the friendship is bound now, or it's concrete. When you get tattoos together, I think that's the next level of this friendship. So this is all amazing, and it's been very, very cool to see, because I've been somehow just involved sort of on the fringe, very much on the fringe, where I get like I said, the occasional weird message where someone's talking, like Beth's talking in the background, Amy's laughing maniacally and saying stuff. I'm like, okay, there's either a lot of alcohol or I don't know, actually don't know what's going on there. So there is that. So you guys had let's say a year of bliss, but like everything, the honeymoon phase is over, and Amy has moved back to the United States of America. So before I get into that, Amy, why? Can I ask why? Am I allowed to ask why? What was the reason behind the decision to move back? Was it always planned, or was it something that you came to say, I'm going to go back?
No, it was something that I've always been weighing both sides. I've never been completely comfortable with a decision like we're going to be in Germany forever, even though I feel like that's what I thought I wanted, because my heart is European. I feel, I've said many times, I feel like there was a mix up somewhere, and I was supposed to have been born in Europe somewhere, but I was born in America instead. And so my heart is there, but the fact is I am American, and this is where it feels like home to me the most. But so I've always been struggling with this decision of, should I stay or should I go? And it wasn't until I came back here to visit I'm in San Diego to visit my parents this past May. And I don't know, just this feeling came over me, and it tipped the scales just enough that I was able to settle on a decision. It just felt like this is what I need to do. I need to come home because of a lot of changes going on in my life, just different evolutions of my personality. I realized that that's what I needed to do. And so I called my husband on the phone because he wasn't with us. And I just said, I feel like we need to come back here.
And what was his reaction? Was it acceptance, or did he go, let's think about this?
He accepted it. It was not his first choice, but I've also followed him around and supported him in things that he wanted to do. And he's from here, so that helps. If he wasn't from San Diego, it may not have gone that well, but he's from here, and we've both talked about it a lot, just being near our parents as they get older, and the plus side of being where you're from. And so it has not been easy. I mean, it feels like it's my fault, kind of like all the difficulties that we've been through. I mean, we made it happen really fast. Like, this was at the end of May, and we were here by August.
Wow.
I mean, we had a checklist, and we just like went through the checklist, and every day it was a ton of stuff, and it was really crazy. And my kids have struggled. My husband was not thrilled, but here we are.
here you are, a new chapter of your life. So, and we'll get to how that's feeling now in a minute. We're going to circle back to this discussion. So, ironically, when I listened to your episode, Amy, one of the things that you were talking about is that you had these two American friends. They were good friends where you were when you were living here in Germany, and then it came up that they were leaving. Like that was what was going on in your life at that time. These two close friends of yours were leaving, and you were talking about how that, you know, how disappointing that is and how difficult that is. But now you are the leaving friend, and Beth is kind of left alone without her friend that she just made last year. So Beth, how has this been for you? How have you felt about it?
Well, it's funny because it's so, on one hand, you're like, oh, sad face, but knowing, well, like the discussions that we've had, as goofy as we are, we tend to take deep dives and know kind of what the soul needs or what you need, the guilt that you felt. I remember you talking about your parents don't get to be grandparents or have their, the grandkids nearby, because it's one thing to be married to a German where you have this reason to be away, but you remember you said then, but here we are making this conscious choice to be away. That's a different matter. So when she talks about where she wants to work, what she wants to do with her future, and those things are happening now because she's back home, I am nothing but excited for her. So that totally offsets any like selfish sadness that I may have, because it's just like, you go, girl. I'm more not even, I don't even know if sadness comes into it, because thank goodness we have FaceTime, and I think we blow up our WhatsApp.
I wake up every morning to like 10 messages from Beth, and it's the best thing to listen to when I have my coffee or whatever. Like,
oh, so it's like all voice messages, and then she leaves, and then we do the reverse, and so that each other has, you wake up the next morning, you've got these messages. It's great. So that I think we're almost talking more now that thousands of miles away. But of course, it's not the same as seeing somebody in person, right? But as we know, through this pandemic and video, the evolution here of Zoom, or the rise of Zoom, but I wouldn't have it any other way for anyone in my life. If they make that choice to make a big change, I'm like, more power to you, and what an inspiration, because you're living your true self of what you want, and you're going after it instead of complacency or accepting how it is. This is my lot in life, and this is what I chose. It's kind of grabbing the bull by the horns, and I don't feel any pity party for myself in any way at all.
Thanks, friend. I'm so glad I met Beth, though. Like, even if I had to leave and not get to see her often or ever, hardly, I'm so glad we met.
Oh, guys.
No, stop it.
Stop it. Oh, she's crying. This will be like the second episode she's cried on. Oh my God, Beth is crying.
It
happens every episode. So, but Beth, so you say you're happy for Amy. I know that you generally are, but there must be some kind of frustration from your point of view. What is your friend situation like? Is this, I mean, you obviously have other friends. I'm not saying you don't have other friends, but you've lost a good friend. So that's got to have some impact from that perspective on you.
I'm just have 2 weeks ago celebrated my 9th year in Germany, and there's a sort of thick skin you build up over time that people are going to leave. So, but I do let people in anyway emotionally. It's just it's par for the course. I don't take my friendships lightly. I do have very, obviously, as anyone knows, we have different levels of friendship. I am lucky to have an extremely close friend who's 15 minutes up the road, but we have to schedule time together just as one does when, you have children and things. And actually, she recommended to me years ago, she's from Greece, and she said, you need an American friend. And I thought, okay, what? I know I don't. I remember being very defensive. Like, if I want American friends, I would have stayed in America. Like, at the time, I was very much like, no, I'm fine, But I get her point now, almost like how many years later. I think she may have said this 4 or 5 years ago, and I just sort of wrote it off like, I don't need, like, I live in Germany, whatever, But from the point of view, she meant more, I think, along the lines of getting pulp culture references and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't. I mean, I could certainly find American friends if I want, and I know of several, right? But there's not like this connection. Like, I can't explain why it's like I'm in Amy's kitchen dancing and singing karaoke. Like that's just because that's what we do. Like
That's just how it is. I think there is a lot to be said about making friends with people from your own or similar cultures, because of exactly that. You have more of a chance, and like we said earlier in this chat, that you do have an easier possibility to connect. Let's put it that way, because you do share a lot of the same things. But by the same token, it is special when you do meet someone like that, because I'm South African, and I've, just because I meet another South African doesn't mean I get along with them. Like, in fact, almost all of the South Africans I've met here, I'm like, so there is that. So it is also special of finding that friend that it just clicks. So
yeah.
Amy, you've just moved back to the States, and Beth, you've been back recently, I think several times in the past, in this year, twice this year now, you've been back to the States?
Yes, yeah. April and July, and then I'll be back in a few weeks as well.
Okay, so you're going back a third time now. You're just like making use of this time while it's possible, just to get backwards and forwards.
I'm making up for lost time from the lockdown.
Yeah. So one of the things that's interesting, and one of the things that we've touched on before in our respective episodes, is also that Germany has a way that it changes us. So I'm interested in. We can start with you, Amy. When you got back to the States now, moving back, are there ways that you realize that Germany has changed you concretely, where you're like, oh my God, I was eingedeutscht, or I have been eingedeutscht?
I think it was already kind of different. Like, before I ever moved abroad, I was already kind of irritated by some of the stuff in America that I didn't have to deal with in Germany. So being in Germany was really nice. Like, oh, people are doing these things that I appreciate that people don't do in America. So I guess coming back here, I had to tell myself, you're just going to have to be patient with this stuff, right, that I'm going to have to deal with here. So like I said, I feel like I was already kind of have like the heart of a European. I don't know how to say that. Like, I don't feel quite like I fit in completely in America. Yes, Germany kind of changed me, but I think I was already more kind of in tune with the German stuff. And now coming back here, now it's like, all right, I've got to get reused to this American stuff that I didn't have to deal with. Yeah.
And what about you, Beth? Are you eingedeutscht?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh God.
Yes.
Oh, she's a lost cause.
Actually, I like to think I've just created what's called the Meccan scale, which is the Meccan, I guess, translates to grumbling.
Grumbling, yeah.
But I think it's an art form in this country. So I have caught myself a couple of times here on our Spielstrasse. I'm like, which is rightly so if, the drivers speak through. But I'm much more aware of the quiet hours. I mean, they're just so, I guess the list would be endless, and we only have so much time. So when it comes to like recycling, personality wise, I have really improved on my Pünktlichkeit, on being on time, my punctuality. That improved pretty much instantly. I'm not as formal as I probably should be. And I think it's something I mentioned to my family the other day, that I call it fuck it moments. I'm at the point of, instead of being like, oh my God, that guy just, and getting upset about somebody doing something to me, I'm like, fuck it. Who cares? Like, why am I letting this one person who, like, I will give you a prime example. On a Saturday, I'm walking with a friend of mine through Darmstadt, and she and I are walking down, and this guy has his bicycle, and he just stares at me. Like, I have to get around for him. This is an open pedestrian area. There is no bond. There are no lines on it's a open walking area. Right. And he just gave me a look like this, like what are you doing in my way look? And he goes, I'm allowed to be here with my bike. And I said, do what you want. I said, do what you want, man. And I was like, fuck it. Like,
I'm not getting upset.
Like, this guy was so rude to me today. And I would take it all so to heart. And my poor husband had to hear all about it. And I'm at a point, even like, I think subconsciously I've put the German language, Germany in general, on some higher pedestal, like on a pedestal, like this higher level, that it's better than English because I live here. And I've really gotten to a point where if my daddy Das isn't right, or I haven't said meinem instead of meinen or meiner, and it's not right. Fuck it. Who fucking, no one's a grammar teacher. Fuck it. Like, I have spent so much mental energy on this shit for the last, it was a couple, I think it was part of my 9th anniversary of living here, like the perfect storm of like, been here 9 years. Like this just energy of momentum of like career, la la la. It's just like, fuck it. Why am I so caught up in all that?
And I think that's a great place to be. It's definitely a great place to be, to reach that fuck it moment, as you say. Like, that is, I think, a very healthy way of being a foreigner as well. I mean, and you're not saying that, but you can't completely just say, I'm not going to put in the effort or whatever. But we do tend to overextend ourselves and overthink things as foreigners in a country. And I think it's one of the step is to not overthink it and not to get upset by every little thing, because it just adds to that noise in your brain that you already have a lot of as a foreigner. So I think it's great to get to that fuck it moment. But if anything, Beth, from what I'm hearing, you're telling me that you're eingedeutscht, but all of this that I'm hearing says you're not. It's like you're still annoyed by these things.
Still there, trust me. I go back to the US and I'm ticked off if people are 15 minutes late. They're recycling as a joke. I'm like, what is this for recycling? They're like, recycling, not recycling. I'm like, like it needs to be broken out more than this. And I think one of the first questions I had for Amy when she moved back, I go, what is it like to read a message from a teacher one time through and have full understanding?
Yeah. What is that like, Amy?
It's just like, I read the message and I get what I'm supposed to do. I don't feel like an idiot. I don't have to translate everything and ask somebody, I don't think my translation's correct. What does this actually mean? Like, I know what my kids are supposed to be doing. I know what's going on at school. I don't feel like I'm just half ignorant about everything, clued in.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It must feel so effortless, though, to be back. So now you're back at the States. You don't, like, with that, I often think about that. And when I was back home, I haven't been back home for 4 years, so I've kind of forgotten the feeling. But I remember when you go back, it's just effortless. Everything is effortless. You can, like, I remember going into a shop and thinking, like, already preparing in my mind what I'm going to say in German. And then I get in the shop, I'm like, I don't have to do that. I can just say, hi, I would like whatever.
Yeah. I just open my mouth and stuff just comes out.
It's a miraculous thing.
Like, I always say that I kind of felt like a child in Germany. I was just sort of hoping that whoever I was speaking to would be understanding and nice if I didn't get something right away. And usually that happened, but not always. And so I was always at the mercy of whatever the situation was or the person.
Yeah.
And now I feel like a fully functioning adult in society.
Yeah, that hits home. That's on the mark, because even last week I went to donate some books, and as I spoke to her in German, this is not complicated German that I'm speaking. Here are the books I would like to donate. Her face literally looked like she was going to be ill or throw up from the sound of my voice. Like, maybe it's my voice, I don't know. But from my German, like, she was like very uncomfortable. Yeah. And then I was like, I'm thinking, like, I don't think what I just, and she's like, I thought, are you okay? Do you need a bathroom? Because she really was, I was like, this is, and I thought, and that's where I had one of those moments again where I was like, I got my point across. She clearly understood everything I said, but it was because I wasn't probably, I accepted, it's almost an acceptance that I will never truly be a German. I will never sound like a German. And I clearly have to, instead of looking at that as a Nachteil, like a disadvantage, I need to look at that as an advantage. I am me, and I'm just me who happens to be in this country.
And I think that was the surprising thing for me being here now. Like I said, 14 years. I've also realized that I'm still in situations where I walk away and I know people are thinking I'm a complete idiot after that discussion because I couldn't express myself. And in fact, my only saving grace, I think, that makes it easier is having this podcast, because every week I get to talk to English speakers a lot of the time, or people who speak English very well. Like most of the foreigners that are not English native speakers, they speak amazing English. So I do get to have regular English discussions. So for me, that's been a big part of, like, it's a little piece of keeping my sanity, in that I've not only get the perspective of people who feel the same way as me, but I can also express myself and understand when people are expressing. But when you go out here, even after 14 years, and my German is good, my German is great, and I still end up in situations where I can't just express myself, or I know these people are not experiencing Sean. They're not getting the full Sean experience. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we envy you, Amy.
It's a shared experience being an expat for sure. That's something that your podcast helped me to realize, that there are other people that have similar experiences.
Yeah.
You can envy me for the communication part, but then there's other things that I'm going to have to deal with now that I'm going to envy you for still being there, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like it was a super easy choice.
And there's always compromises with these decisions. It's never that you're picking one clear one that's a clear winner. You're always taking with it compromises that, you know, you're giving up something for something else. And it's always difficult, these choices. But what will you, do you miss anything, Amy, about Germany since you arrived back there, like your old life?
I mean, well, we're still kind of in the honeymoon phase right now, where everything is kind of new adventure, and we haven't even gotten into the whole healthcare thing. I mean, I'm going to miss not paying through the nose for everything healthcare related. My son's in braces. I have no idea how much that's going to cost here. It was basically free in Germany. Yeah. The driving here is completely out of control.
Really?
I mean, I could just take it for granted in Germany that people are going to follow the rules. There's a lot more order there. And here, you just never know which direction someone's coming from. The recycling is atrocious. I mean, I read what you can put in the recycling bin, and like the folia, what do you call it? Like the
plastic wrap?
Plastic wrap. It can't go in the recycling. What? And I'm just like, I almost physically can't put it in the trash. I'm like, seriously, this is so wrong. I can't do it. And so stuff like that just seems kind of backwards. And I don't think I've been here long enough to fully realize all of the stuff that I'm going to really miss about Germany. Yeah. Because right now I'm just excited about tacos and speaking English and Trader Joe's and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I suppose you're caught up in a whirlwind of preparation and planning and things like that. That's all happening right now. That garbage thing is quite interesting. I hear it from a lot of foreigners who go back to their home country, because when I go back to South Africa, it's also, they just shove everything into the same bins. There's no thing. And like you said, Amy, I cannot do it. I'm like standing there with a plastic thing, and my brother's just like, put it in, that's where it goes. I'm like, no, I can't do it. I can't. So I leave it like on the kitchen counter, and I know someone else will throw it in there, because I cannot throw it in there myself. I'm just not going to do it.
I am the exact same. My mother looks at me like, because everything's in a plastic bag. You can't. I'm like, lady, I carried it all the way to this cashier register. I can carry it to my car. Yeah. And it's like, just the fact that they come at you so fast with plastic bags. I'm like, stop, I got this. I have my own bag. And, but those plastic bags, I would just start my own that I would separate out. And my mom was like, you're going to leave that hanging there? I'm like, yes, this bag will be here because that's my attempt at having some sort of plan or system. Because
it's strange.
Any German listening to this, your recycling is way better than...
We love your recycling. Just to be clear, we do love things about Germany.
We had the recycling bin in Germany, plus all the other bins for the different things, and this tiny little trash can. And here it's the opposite. We have a huge trash bin and this tiny little recycling thing, but we always have way more recycling than what it can hold. So I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Just to give you a hint that over here, I had to we got rid of our Restmüll. We don't have a trash can for Restmüll, for the rest. Wow. We don't have any. I mean, all we have is cat litter. That's it. And it's still, that's it. Everything else goes in recycle. Literally, take the top off of your yogurt cup. It doesn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm extreme, but I'm talking to you two. No, I don't seem so extreme.
It is. It's one of the things that definitely has happened to me since living in Germany is the garbage thing. So Amy, one more question for you. What do you not miss about Germany?
So, we already covered. I don't miss feeling like an idiot most of the time with the language part, but I don't really miss kind of this one way of doing things mindset that I picked up over there, that, there's a certain way to dress for each event, or there's only certain kinds of stores available. in a village or something. Like here, it just feels like the options and the opportunities are limitless. Like you can find anything or any kind of person. You can wear anything you want and no one's going to look at you weird or stare at you. And maybe it's just because I'm in California, but people wear flip-flops everywhere. And in Germany, it's like, unless you're at a pool or the beach, you should not be wearing flip-flops or, unless it's the middle of summer. But here you can just kind of wear whatever you want and it's fun. And there's lots of fun, different kinds of shops to go in, and it's more open-minded is what it feels like to me here. In our village in Germany, it was just, you got your bakery, you've got your optometrist, pharmacy, clothing store, that's it, you know?
And like you've got 2 pharmacies in a village usually or something like that. There's always an abundance of pharmacies and they're exactly the same. Like you go to the one, it's the same as the other one. Like, why do we actually have 2 pharmacies here?
Yeah.
So I get that.
I get to like the variety and diversity better.
So I'm going to say I don't think you're eingedeutscht, Amy. I think you may have escaped before you truly became eingedeutscht.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely am going to have to be patient with certain things about the US that I'm really going to miss about Germany.
Yeah. All right. Well, Amy and Beth, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. And I will put your Instagrams and whatever in the show notes so that people can get in touch with you and ask you questions if they have questions. See ya.
Thanks, Sean.
Bye, Beth.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. What's the city in India? Mumbai.
Bye.
I don't know if I'm happy or sad that I'm still recording. This is like it's deteriorating very quickly.
Oh, lucky you, Sean. Lucky you. All right.
Thanks, Beth and Amy. We'll see. We'll chat again sometime.